Yo, what's up guys, it's Jack and welcome back to another video, and this is the continuation of the series that I started in my previous video where I was talking about my top 5 assault rifles in Call of Duty for the boots on the ground games. And in this episode we're going to be talking about the SMGs, also known as the submachine guns, and yes, this will be on the boots on the ground edition also. So we're only going to be covering the weapons, my personal top 5 of the weapons that are for the boots on the ground games only. So from everything from Black Ops 1, which is the first Black Ops game that I started playing, which was the original start of my Call of Duty career, and finishing up with Ghosts, which was the last boots on the ground game before COD World War II. So without further ado, let's start it up. So I'm going to get the obvious out of the way first, obviously, just like I did in my last video. And you've got the MSMC from Black Ops 2. This gun, sometimes this gun, which in this gameplay actually shows off pretty well, sometimes this gun just seems to have what some of us like to call magic recoil. And what I mean by this is sometimes it just has more recoil than other times. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's some sort of just mental effect, or I don't know. Sometimes it just feels like it has more. Obviously, the gun was an absolute laser when the game first came out, and then they nerfed it by giving it by nerfing the range a little bit, as well as adding more recoil. And the PDW would have made this list, but the recoil that they gave it after the nerf just ended up being way too much to where, I mean, it's really unpredictable. I mean, sure, you can put a grip on it and kind of help change it a little bit, but I don't know. The only one thing that kept the PDW from making this list is the fact that when you first start firing with the gun, it just shoots up so high and so fast that it's really hard to control. So, but very close, very close. And let's move on to the next one, and this will be the last gun from Black Ops 2, and that is the Scorpion. The Scorpion is not just good at close range; it could be good at a distance like the other SMGs. If you can control the recoil, and the recoil can be controlled easier than the PDW can, in my personal opinion, and the gun has a faster fire rate, and if you're accurate enough, the Scorpion will melt you. And obviously at the closer range, a much closer range, the Scorpion pretty much beats all the other SMGs, simply because of its fire rate. So if you have the skill to a certain extent to be able to control the recoil and get used to it and train yourself to get better with it, the Scorpion is definitely a candidate, and it's also been used in competitive as well. It's just that it's not as reliable from a distance because it's harder to control. But if you're really close, like if you're trying to hold down a hard point and you're in a spot, like for instance, let's say you're playing on Yemen and you're holding down a hard point in church, the Scorpion is definitely a good weapon to have at your side. It trumps the competition in terms of SMGs in situations like that for Black Ops 2. And again, it's a competitor for medium range engagements as well. Granted, you are able to control the recoil and have good accuracy. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. The AK-74U from Black Ops 1 was an absolute monster. It felt like an assault rifle with stock. And in Black Ops 1, there was no stock. You couldn't strafe any faster. You just had to deal with the gun that you were given. And that's where the AK-74U really took off. And it was good with rapid fire. Granted, you were able to control the recoil again, but again, even without rapid fire and even with a silencer and everything, I mean, the gun was just very versatile. And everything that I was talking about in the last video in terms of what makes a good assault rifle for me personally, the same thing applies to SMGs. It's got to be a versatile weapon. It has to be a weapon that could be, you know, it could be good to use with all sorts of different attachments. And the AK-74U, even with Black Ops 1, where customization wasn't to where it is today, I can tell you that the AK-74U was a very versatile weapon, and it competed to a certain extent even with assault rifles. And obviously, as even in Black Ops 1, where assault rifles were king, it competed with that, and with SMGs, it was basically the king of SMGs. There were a few other SMGs that could compete, but like for instance, the MP5 was one that could, but the AK-74U was just too good. It was a class above. So So yeah, that's it for the third one. And number 4, we're moving on to the Vector from Ghosts. Now, obviously, the MTAR was the first go-to weapon in terms of SMGs, in terms of Ghosts. But after a while, I think sometime near the halfway point in the game's life cycle, people ended up changing to the Vector because they buffed the Vector. And I don't know if they nerfed the MTAR or not, but they buffed the Vector to the point to where it was even better than the MTAR, or at least it was competitive. And the one thing personally for me that put the Vector above the MTAR was the iron sights. The iron sights for the Vector, in my opinion, other people can disagree obviously, the iron sights were a little bit better because the MTAR on the left of the iron sights, on the left hand side, it just blocked too much of your peripheral vision, and it's always something that kind of threw me off personally. So that's also why, another reason for me, why I would put the Vector on top of ahead of the MTAR. But it was a very, very solid assault rifle. And again, in pubs you could use different attachments on as well. You can use the laser sight, you could use a silencer or whatnot. I mean, again, a very versatile weapon. And when you see competitive players, you know, halfway through Ghosts, when you see all the competitive guys, the pro players, switching from the MTAR to the Vector, you know something's up. So I think this was a gun overall, not just from a pub standpoint, but from a competitive standpoint as well, that was just preferred by everybody, because overall, after the buff, it just ended up being a better gun overall to use. So yeah, that's it for my number 4. And my number 5, and again, when I say 1 through 5, I'm not necessarily putting one gun on top of the other, but in this case, if I had to say, I purposely put this one last because I wanted to save the best for last. This gun, this submachine gun that I'm about to talk about, in my opinion, is the best submachine gun in Call of Duty history. And some people can argue it, but I don't think so. I think everybody can pretty much agree on this, or at least most of us can. But the MP7 from Modern Warfare 3 was just an absolute monster. I mean, it was there was basically no, the gun had like little to no recoil, so it was basically a laser sight. It was good, firing from the hip as well. It had a good fire rate. The iron sights were solid, and it was mostly preferable with rapid fire and with a suppressor. That was the way to do the MP7 in Modern Warfare 3. Most people, 9 people out of 10, would run rapid fire suppressor on it. At least the people that knew what they were doing, and that had a little bit more knowledge about the game than the average bear. But I think in competitive, I think you could probably take the iron sights off. I mean, excuse me, not the iron sights, but the suppressor off, and just run it with rapid fire and with the recoil control proficiency, whichever one that was. But yeah, or the kick proficiency, that's what it was called. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the MP7 could nail people at a distance. Granted, it would take more bullets to kill somebody, sure, but the fire rate, along with the amazing amount of accuracy that the gun had, how accurate you could be with it, that and the fire rate alone, and in pubs, if you use a silencer to constantly stay off the radar, just made the gun an absolute beast to use. And you had built-in stalker in it because basically it's a submachine gun, so you could strafe shoot really well with it. The iron sights, basically like this gun that you're seeing here, the MP7, is basically the iron sights are the same, more or less, and it was just an absolute monster. And that's what I think. That's what Treyarch did with Black Ops 2, is they brought the weapon back, but they didn't make it quite as overpowered, simply because they added basically enough recoil to it, and obviously they nerfed the distance of how long you can kill somebody with it. So in my opinion, in terms of balance, the MP7 is very well balanced in Black Ops 2. But if we're talking about overall capabilities of an SMG, the Modern Warfare 3 MP7 reigns supreme above all SMGs, arguably, in Call of Duty history. So, but let me know what you guys think about this list. What do you think? Do you agree to a certain extent? Do you disagree? Let me know your opinions down below. Again, there are other weapons, like the PDW, for instance, that didn't make the list, or some other guns from other games that I could definitely think of, but I don't want to mention because I'm running low on time here. But the thing is, overall, these are my top 5, and there are some guns that really got close to just didn't quite make the list, but they were really close. But Anyway, let me know what you guys think. What are your opinions? What are your top 5? Let me know down in the comment section. I'm curious. I'd really like to know. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, let me know. And if you didn't, let me know what I can do to make my videos better. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.